Do you find that your quiet confidence is often mistaken for arrogance or aloofness? Have you ever been labeled as too much simply for being honest and self-aware? Is it possible that the qualities others misunderstand in you, like your need for solitude and your unwillingness to chase validation, are actually your greatest strengths? Welcome to time-tested advice, where ancient philosophies meets the modern world. I'm your host, Alfred. Let's get started. Sometimes being real feels lonely because fake is everywhere. Most people won't get you, and that's not a flaw. It's confirmation that you're operating on a different frequency. Sigma females have a way of shaking people up without even trying. You're not loud. You're not chasing attention, and you're definitely not molding yourself to fit anyone's version of acceptable. That alone makes people stare, question, and judge. Normal minds are built on routine, approval, and fitting in. You challenge all of that just by being yourself. You don't need a crowd to feel valid. You don't need noise to feel alive, and you don't need to be constantly seen to feel confident. That kind of presence can make people uncomfortable because it confronts what they secretly wish they had: freedom. They'll call you distant when you're just protecting your peace. They'll label you intimidating when you're simply uninterested in games. They'll say you're too intense when you're just honest and aware. People project what they can't understand. And the truth is, many can't wrap their heads around a woman who moves through life so focused, so unbothered, so self-contained. But don't change a thing. Your strength doesn't need softening just to make others feel secure. Your boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. Keep your silence sharp. Keep your standards high. Keep being you, even if it makes them uncomfortable, because the more they talk, the more they reveal exactly why you never needed to be part of normal in the first place. Number 1, they don't know whether to admire her or resent her, so they do both. It's confusing for them. One moment, they're praising her confidence, her calm, the way she moves through life without begging for attention. The next moment, they're picking her apart behind closed doors. Why? Because her presence forces them to confront something uncomfortable in themselves. She doesn't try to impress anyone. She doesn't follow the crowd. She knows exactly who she is, and that alone is enough to shake people up. Some admire her because she seems untouchable, not in a proud or arrogant way, but in that rare way that comes from doing the inner work most people avoid. She's not loud. She's not constantly posting her life online to prove a point. Yet somehow she has gravity. People feel it. They want to be near her, to figure her out, to be part of her world. But here's where it flips. The longer they stay around her, the more they start noticing what's missing in their own lives. Her discipline exposes their distractions. Her peace highlights their chaos. Her clarity makes their confusion louder. She's not even trying to compete. She just is. And that drives some people crazy. For example, at work, she might quietly finish a task with precision and move on without bragging. While others are talking about how busy they are, she's already 3 steps ahead. They admire her work ethic, but deep down they resent that they're not wired the same way. This is the emotional conflict she constantly creates in others without saying a word. People want to be like her, but resent what she reflects back at them. They feel drawn to her energy and disturbed by how it makes them feel about their own. She didn't come to trigger anyone, but when you live with that kind of self-possession, you end up being both the mirror and the measuring stick, and not everyone can handle that. Number 2, they accuse her of overthinking, But what they don't see is that she's playing a mental game 10 steps ahead of everyone else. To the average person, her silence might look like she's stuck in her head. But the truth is, she's already run the entire situation through her mind, flipped it inside out, and figured out the possible outcomes before most people have even picked up on what's happening. This isn't overthinking. This is strategic thinking in real time. A Sigma female doesn't just see what's in front of her. She sees what could happen if she speaks too soon, moves too fast, or trusts too quickly. She notices patterns. She catches inconsistencies in what people say and do. She picks up on the small shifts in tone, body language, timing. It's like watching the world in slow motion while everyone else is speeding past. Imagine she's meeting someone new. While most people get caught up in the surface, smiles, compliments, charm, she's observing everything else. She's asking herself, why did he dodge that question? Why does her energy shift when that topic comes up? What's not being said? She's already calculated the risk of getting close and is quietly making her decisions while the other person still thinks they're leading the conversation. People tell her she's reading too much into things, but that's only because they don't know what it feels like to have been burned by what they didn't see coming. She's learned that the real damage comes from what she didn't question soon enough. So now she questions everything, not to create problems, but to avoid them. She's not paranoid, she's prepared, and people who live on autopilot will never understand what it takes to live with that kind of awareness. Her mind is her armor. Her thoughts are her warning system. She doesn't overthink to complicate things. She thinks deeply to protect her peace. And honestly, that's not a flaw. That's a superpower. Number 3, they call her mysterious, but what they really mean is, I can't control her. It sounds like a compliment, right? Mysterious, intriguing, like she's wrapped in some kind of fog that people are dying to get through. But here's the truth. Most people don't say it with admiration. They say it with frustration, because when someone can't predict you, influence you, or box you into something they're comfortable with, they panic. A Sigma female doesn't live to be decoded. She's not withholding anything for effect. She's not trying to play hard to get or act like she's above everyone else. She simply moves differently. She's guided by her own inner compass, not someone else's idea of who she should be. And that bothers people who are used to controlling the narrative. They want to know what you'll say next, how you'll react. They want access to your thoughts and emotions on their terms. But a Sigma female doesn't hand over the keys just because someone is curious. She doesn't overshare to feel validated. She doesn't offer up her story for approval. That makes her dangerous to people who need control to feel powerful. Picture this. A man meets her. She's calm, kind, but she's not overly impressed. She listens more than she talks. She doesn't gush. She doesn't chase. Suddenly, he doesn't know where he stands, and instead of respecting her boundaries, he calls her mysterious. Translation: she's not giving him the control he's used to, so he labels her as something he can't understand, instead of admitting he just doesn't have power over her. Her mystery isn't a performance. It's the natural byproduct of freedom. She doesn't need to be loud to prove anything. She just lives in her truth without asking for permission. And to people who equate control with closeness, she'll always feel like a problem they can't solve, a riddle with no answer, a flame they can't hold. That's not mystery, that's liberation. Number 4, they think she's arrogant for not needing validation. But here's the truth. She's not walking around with a superiority complex. She's just not addicted to being seen. And in a world where so many people rely on likes, applause, and constant reassurance to feel whole, That kind of self-containment looks suspicious. It confuses people. It even offends them. She doesn't post every win. She doesn't explain her every decision. She doesn't perform her worth just to get a reaction. And because of that, people start projecting their own insecurities onto her. They call her distant. They say she thinks she's better than everyone else. But really, they're just uncomfortable around someone who doesn't need external approval to feel good about herself. Think about it. If someone is always fishing for compliments and they're around someone who doesn't play that game, what do you think happens? They start feeling invisible, irrelevant, and instead of facing that feeling, they attack the person who triggered it. She's not rude. She's just not fake. She doesn't dish out praise unless she means it. She doesn't entertain nonsense to keep people happy, and if she claps for you, it's real. But if she doesn't, don't expect her to pretend. That's not her style. People who constantly need validation often take her silence as judgment. They assume she's being arrogant because she's not loudly cheering for things she doesn't respect. But the truth is, she's minding her own business. And it just so happens that her peace threatens people who can't sit in theirs. She doesn't think she's better than anyone. She just refuses to chase approval from everyone. And in today's world, that alone is seen as rebellion. Number 5. They call her intimidating when she's simply uninterested, and that says more about them than it does about her. See, when someone expects attention and doesn't get it, they often mistake that silence for attitude. But she's not being cold. She's not trying to make anyone feel small. She's just not playing a role she never signed up for. She doesn't fake laughs to be polite. She doesn't force connections out of boredom. She doesn't stretch conversations just to avoid awkward silences. If she's not feeling it, she's not pretending. And that level of honesty can feel like rejection to people who are used to being entertained, flattered, or pursued. Her ability to walk away quietly without drama, without explanation, leaves people stunned. Especially those who live off emotional highs and lows. People who thrive on games and mixed signals don't know what to do with someone who simply disconnects when she's not aligned. No warning, no mess, just a calm exit. Imagine someone tries to get her attention by being overly charming or by provoking her. She doesn't react. She doesn't snap back. She just watches for a second, then turns her focus elsewhere. That moment right there, that's when they start calling her intimidating. Not because she's aggressive, but because she's unaffected. People used to control often think indifference is hostility, but it's not. It's clarity. She's not trying to teach lessons or play games. She just has better things to do than entertain nonsense. She's not hard to get. She's just hard to fool. There's no performance here. If she's interested, you'll feel it. If she's not, she won't fake it. And that alone unsettles people who are used to mistaking attention for value. Number 6, they label her as too much or too intense because she sees through everything. Not because she's loud, not because she's dramatic, but because she has depth most people aren't ready to face. She sees what's really going on beneath the surface, behind the fake smiles, the polished masks, the carefully filtered words. And that kind of clarity makes people uncomfortable. The truth is, most people are used to hiding in plain sight. They've gotten good at pretending to be happy, pretending to be confident, pretending to be okay. But when a Sigma female shows up, she doesn't just hear what people say. She feels what they don't. She notices the tension in their voice, the flicker in their eyes, the subtle pause before they answer. She reads the things people are trying not to say, so when she asks questions that cut through the surface, or when she quietly points out what no one else dares to mention, They start calling her intense. Translation: she makes them see themselves too clearly. Let's say she's in a group chat and everyone's joking around, avoiding real conversation. Someone mentions something serious and she responds with truth, not to kill the vibe, but because she's not built for pretending. Suddenly, the air shifts. People go quiet. Someone jokes. You think too much, but what they really mean is you just made me uncomfortable with your honesty. She doesn't do small talk. She doesn't fake laugh. She doesn't sugarcoat. And instead of appreciating that, they take it personally, like her depth is an attack on their comfort zone. But the reality is, she's not too much. She's just unwilling to stay shallow. And people who spend their lives avoiding themselves will always feel exposed around someone who refuses to play small. Number 7, they accuse her of being antisocial, but the truth is, she's just anti-noise. She's not avoiding people. She's avoiding the nonsense that comes with them, the loud parties where everyone's pretending to have fun, the endless gossip that goes nowhere, the fake small talk, the shallow connections, the drama that drains your spirit. She sees all of that as emotional junk food, cheap, addictive, and empty. She values peace more than presence. She'd rather stay home in silence than force a smile at a table full of noise. And to people who constantly need stimulation, that's confusing. They think, why isn't she more social? Why doesn't she want to be here with us? But what they don't get is that her absence is not rejection, it's self-preservation. Imagine she gets invited to a gathering. She walks in and immediately feels the tension behind the laughter. She can tell who's faking it, who's gossiping, who's looking for attention. None of it feels real. None of it feeds her soul. So she stays long enough to be polite, then leaves no drama, no goodbye to her, just peace. And that's why they say she's antisocial, because she doesn't show up just to be seen. She doesn't surround herself with people just to fill space. She's not cold, she's just selective. Her peace is her priority, and she knows the cost of letting the wrong energy in. So while others run toward noise to escape themselves, she walks in the opposite direction to find herself every single time. Number 8, they think she's hard to read, when really she's just not broadcasting. She's not putting her emotions on display for everyone to analyze. She's not out here trying to be an open book, just so people feel comfortable around her. If she's quiet, it's not because she's hiding something. It's because she values privacy over performance. People who are used to emotional oversharing find her unsettling. They can't figure her out, and that frustrates them. They want clues, signals, something to grab onto, but she doesn't offer that freely. If you want to know her, you have to earn it, not by pushing, not by prying, but by showing up with realness and patience. She doesn't give people access to her inner world just because they're curious. She's not rude about it. She's just intentional. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to her thoughts, her pain, or her dreams. Think about it. In a world where people post their every emotion for strangers to see, a woman who moves in silence feels like a mystery. They call her hard to read because they're not used to people who protect their emotional space. But that's not her problem. She's not playing games. She's not trying to seem deep or mysterious. She's just not interested in being picked apart by people who don't know how to handle depth. She'll share when she trusts you. She'll open up when she feels safe. Until then, don't expect her to perform vulnerability just to make you feel included. She's not cold. She's not distant. She's just done handing out parts of herself to people who haven't earned the right to hold them. Number 9. They think she's rebellious, but the truth is, she just refuses to be programmed. She's not trying to make a statement. She's not out to shock or defy. She simply doesn't follow the script that most people blindly accept. She questions everything: why people behave the way they do, why certain paths are considered normal, and who decided the rules in the first place. That kind of thinking makes her unpredictable to those who crave order and conformity. She doesn't jump on trends just because they're popular. She doesn't speak or dress a certain way just to fit in. She's not interested in mimicking what the world says is successful, beautiful, or acceptable. Instead, she creates her own path, her own rhythm, her own algorithm, one that actually makes sense to her. People mistake that for rebellion because they can't imagine not needing a crowd's approval. But she's not trying to prove anything. She simply doesn't want to live on autopilot. Take social media, for example. While everyone is busy following the latest trend or posting for validation, she's silent, or she's posting what matters to her, not what's expected. And just like that, she becomes the outlier. Not because she's loud, but because she's free. That's terrifying to people who've built their identity around being accepted. Herd minds panic when someone steps out of line without asking for permission. Her existence challenges their entire belief system. She's not rebellious. She's awake. And in a world where most people are running on programming, they never questioned, that's more disruptive than any protest. She doesn't want to be right. She just wants to be real. And that in itself is a revolution. Number 10. They confuse her clarity with cruelty, but the truth is, she's not trying to hurt anyone. She's just not in the business of sugarcoating reality. When she speaks, it's direct. No fluff, no detours. Just the truth, raw and clear. And for people who are used to being comforted with soft lies or carefully edited half-truths, that honesty feels like an attack. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't dramatize. She just says what needs to be said. And in a world that often chooses politeness over truth, that kind of clarity is uncomfortable. Some people take it personally. They say she's too blunt, too harsh, too cold. But what they don't understand is that her honesty comes from a place of respect, not aggression. She would rather give someone the truth they need than the comfort they want. She's not going to nod along when she sees a train wreck coming. She's not going to clap for behavior she doesn't believe in. She's not going to pretend just to keep the peace. That's not cruelty. That's courage. Imagine a friend venting about a toxic relationship. While others might say it's going to be okay, she'll say, "You're stuck in a cycle, and it's not going to end unless you walk away." Not to shame, but to awaken. Not to hurt, but to help. She doesn't believe in soft lies that feel good for a moment, but leave scars later. She believes in clarity that stings now, but saves you down the road. So no, she's not being mean. She's being real, and people who have spent their lives wrapped in comfort will always struggle to recognize the kindness in that kind of truth. Number 11. They assume she's unlucky in love, but the truth is, she's just unwilling to settle. People see a woman who's single and immediately think something must be wrong. Maybe she's too picky. Maybe she's intimidating. Maybe no one wants her. But here's what they don't get. She's not waiting for love. She's protecting her peace. She doesn't fear being alone. She fears wasting her time. She doesn't want the kind of love that looks good in pictures, but feels empty when the cameras are off. She's not impressed by shallow charm, flashy lifestyles, or sweet words with no follow-through. What she's looking for isn't rare because she's delusional. It's rare because most people haven't done the work to meet her where she is. She's built a life she genuinely enjoys. She has her routines, her passions, her freedom. So if someone's going to be a part of that, they need to add peace, not problems. She won't shrink herself just to make a relationship work, and she won't tolerate being treated like an option while someone figures things out. But from the outside, people love to project. They think she must be lonely. They feel sorry for her. They assume she goes home and cries over romantic movies. What they don't see is that her solitude is intentional. Her singleness is not a season she's trying to escape. It's a space she's holding until someone worthy arrives. And if that never happens, she'll still be okay, because her life isn't on pause. She's not incomplete. She's just not interested in building a life with someone who's not aligned with her values. She doesn't need a partner to feel validated. Her standards aren't built on fairy tales. They're built on self-respect. And that's not bad luck. That's powerful. Number 12. They say she's too independent because she makes them feel unnecessary. But let's call it what it really is. She's self-sufficient. And that shakes people who only feel valuable when someone depends on them. She doesn't need saving. She doesn't need someone to complete her. And she definitely doesn't need permission to move, think, or live on her terms. That kind of independence doesn't sit well with certain people, especially those whose identity is wrapped in being the fixer, the hero, the provider. When they can't swoop in and play the role they're used to, they feel useless. So instead of owning that discomfort, they flip the script and label her as too much. She's not rejecting connection, she's rejecting control. There's a big difference. She's open to love, friendship, and partnership, but not if it comes with strings disguised as help. She won't water herself down just to make someone else feel important. Take a man who's used to being in charge. He meets her, and at first, he's intrigued. She's grounded. She has her own. She doesn't chase, but as time goes on, he starts to feel powerless. She doesn't ask him for approval. She doesn't collapse when things go wrong. She solves her own problems. And slowly, admiration turns into resentment. He feels invisible, not because she's pushing him away, but because she doesn't need him in the way he expected. That's the heart of it. She doesn't need anyone. She chooses who to allow in, and that makes some people deeply uncomfortable. Her independence isn't a wall. It's a filter. It keeps out people who only know how to attach through dependence. She wants a partner, not a parent. She wants equality, not ego. And if that makes her too independent in their eyes, so be it. She'd rather walk alone than walk with someone who feels threatened by her strength. Number 13. Her quiet confidence is often mislabeled as arrogance. People who are constantly seeking validation find her self-assurance unsettling. They don't understand how someone can be so secure without the constant noise of external praise. They mistake her silence for judgment and her lack of faking for a superiority complex. But in truth, she simply has a strong inner compass. She knows her worth and doesn't need others to confirm it. Her power comes from within, not from the attention she receives. And people who have outsourced their self-worth to the opinions of others will always struggle to understand a woman who is her own source of validation. Number 14. She's seen as unapproachable because she doesn't waste energy on small talk. For her, conversation is a chance for genuine connection, not a way to fill awkward silence. She's not being rude when she doesn't engage in superficial chatter. She's being intentional. She saves her energy for conversations that have depth and meaning, and she's not afraid of silence because she finds peace and clarity in it. People who are uncomfortable with quiet moments will often label her as cold or standoffish, but in reality, she's simply waiting for a connection that is worth her time and attention. Being misunderstood is the price of being real in a world that thrives on pretending. If you're a Sigma female, chances are you've been mislabeled more times than you can count. Cold, arrogant, mysterious, too intense, too quiet, too independent. But here's what most people fail to understand. You're not living to be understood. You're living to be true to yourself. You're not wired like everyone else, and that's not something you need to fix. You see through things most people ignore. You think deeply, move deliberately, and choose your peace over popularity. That alone puts you in a category most can't figure out. And frankly, some don't want to, because your presence calls out their noise. Your calm makes them confront their chaos. Your self-possession reminds them of what they've given away just to feel accepted. Let them misread you. Let them call it what they want. The truth is, you're not here to be put in a box. You're here to build a life that feels like yours, quietly, powerfully, and without apology. You don't need to broadcast your worth. You embody it, and anyone with real eyes will see that eventually. So, keep moving how you move. Trust your silence. Trust your instincts. And never water down your strength just to keep fragile egos comfortable. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to walk your own path, even when no one claps, even when they misunderstand your silence, even when they fear your strength, because at the end of the day, you're not misunderstood. You're just not like them, and that's your power. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'm your host, Alfred, and I read every comment.